Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rin. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I was going to start this series of just walking through my art process from start to finish. So starting with a sketch and talking about how I specifically sketch people. I did do this video on my channel quite a few months ago, but I've drawn so much since then that I'm hoping I can maybe offer some other tips and talk about this process a little bit more in depth. So starting, I start still with the circle and the cross method and lay out where I want my facial features to go. This girl that I'm drawing right now is not quite my typical style because I was super nervous. I still get so nervous sketching on camera. So I kind of forget how to draw. So normally you'll see I do this when we work on the girl on the second girl, the girl on the left side of the page. I normally start with actually sculpting out how I want the face shape to be and then put the features on it. That's just my personal preference. So something else I do when I sketch is I am extremely sketchy. I like to keep my lines very, very loose and very undefined until I have them in a shape I really like them to be, and then I will start refining them. Also, real quick, I want to talk about this eraser my mom got me that is shaped like a pencil. It just came off Amazon. It is really nice for getting into small spaces. If you are working on a very intricate project, or if you are just somebody who enjoys sketching smaller, it's great for erasing without erasing too much. Highly recommend it. So yeah, I just like to sketch out really rough shapes like you can see I'm doing here with her arm and with her hand, and then going back in and refining it. So I have two reasons I really like to work like this. And the first is just because I feel like I have to keep my life in every other area very put together. So for me, art is just a space where I can kind of play and not feel too restricted. It feels very freeing, and I want to keep that mindset while I am drawing, which I think in the long run helps me create better art because I'm not over pressuring myself. And then the other reason I really enjoy doing this is because as I'm going back in and refining these lines and making them look a little bit cleaner, it by nature creates line variation. I know I talked about this in my last video, but I want to talk about it again because I really think it is a super simple way to make your art just look so much more visually appealing, and that is in just creating difference in line variation, which is something that's hard to teach, I think, but once you get it and you are starting to feel more comfortable with it, it makes such a huge difference in creating a more visually appealing sketch or painting or whatever you're working on. Something else I wanted to talk about is where I get my reference pictures and for outfits and for poses. So this was not an original idea by me. I saw somebody else mention this on I think it was a Tumblr post posted on Pinterest a really long time ago. But to use vintage sewing pattern illustrations for reference poses, because the illustrations are made to show off the outfits while still being visually appealing. I think this is maybe one of the best ways to find references that I've personally heard of, because it's not only great for finding references for poses, but also great for finding references for how clothing sits and looks. So both of these girls are drawn using that method, looking at illustrations from vintage clothing patterns, and then also just from some pictures I had on my personal Pinterest fashion board. Now, I know there's a lot of mixed opinions about Pinterest now. I also dislike Pinterest at this point because it's so overfilled with AI art and with ads, and it's just not a great place to find reference images easily anymore. So if you have any other places that you like to find reference images, please do let me know and leave it in the comment down below, because I'm also not a fan of using Pinterest. I just don't know what else to use at the moment. So some other things that I like to do when I am just intending to leave something as a sketch is, of course, doing lots of shading and just building up that shading as I go. Places that I really like to shade, obviously like under the neck where you'd get that natural shadow from the head, under the hairline, right there by the jawline, where the hair gets closer to the neck, like what would be behind. I always like to shade just thinking about wherever something overlaps. I like to add some shading just for some extra depth. And then something else that I didn't really highlight in my filming, but I do like to do a lot, is to shade the eyes from dark to light. So starting dark and going lighter, and it just is a really simple way to add some extra depth to your sketch. So another thing is I erase a lot because I like here intended to have this girl's hand like holding her hair, and I just could not get the hand to look right. And for me, I wasn't trying to use this particular page in my sketchbook to work on drawing hands better. I was being lazy. I didn't want to do that. I was already working on just drawing poses because I just draw the same pose all the time. So this was more of an exercise in getting better at drawing a different pose than it was necessarily working on hands. So I think that's another thing to think of when you are just drawing in general. Don't pressure yourself to do everything at once. I think that's a really easy way to create burnout, is just by being like, this has to be perfect when I'm done with it, and just being okay with it. Like, I drew her hand in her pocket because I was like, I don't feel like drawing this hand at all. So I took the easy way out, but I'm still really happy with how this turned out because I didn't overpressure myself, and I feel like because I wasn't forcing myself to make this look a certain way, the end result actually ended up being better than if that makes sense. Another place I really like to add shading is to the elbows and to the knees on like jackets in this case, or pants. And I like to add it in a heart shape. That's just like a part of my style, but I do think like adding shading there just helps give it a little bit more dimension. And then I also was kind of stupid and started on the right side of the page and worked my way into the left, like the center of the page, which was obviously a bad idea because then I started smudging all of my work I'd already done. So like, I don't think anybody else is making this mistake. This is like very much a me just not thinking things through mistake. But just in case, start in on the page and work out so you don't smudge your sketch. Also, I don't use any fancy products whatsoever. The fanciest thing I use is that eraser I already showed, and then I do use a kneaded eraser sometimes as well. Sometimes I just use the eraser on the pencil if I feel lazy. You don't need fancy art supplies to make good art. Just use whatever supplies you feel the most comfortable working with, because the point is just to have your hand feel comfortable making different shapes. So yeah, anyway, this is how the finished product is. I hope this video was helpful, at least a little bit. If there's anything else you have questions about or want me to explain further, please leave a comment down below and let me know. And remember to be kind and stay cozy. Bye!